Robert Elliott. He was the first African American commanding general of the South Carolina National Guard, but his political accomplishments reached far beyond that. Born August 11, 1842, in Liverpool, England, to West Indian parents. He received a public education in England and learned a typesetter's trade. Elliott served in the British Army and arrived on a warship in Boston around 1867. He moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and became an associate editor of the South Carolina Leader, which was a freeman's newspaper. He married Grace Lee, and they did not have any children. He was one of 78 black delegates to the 1868 State Convention, and he helped defeat the imposition of a poll tax and a literacy test for voters. He was nominated lieutenant governor in the 1868 at that state convention, but he dropped out after finishing third in the first round of ballot counts. Later in 1868, while serving as the only black member of the Barnwell County Board of Commissioners, Elliott was elected to the State House of Representatives, where he remained until 1870. He was almost elected Speaker of the House, but came second in the ballot counts. And he went on to receive influential assignments as chairman of the Committee on Railroads and chairman of the Committee on Privileges and Elections. During his tenure in the State Assembly, Elliott used his keen intelligence and ambition to study law and was admitted to the South Carolina Bar in September 1868. And in 1870, the Republican governor, Robert K. Smith, appointed Elliott the Assistant Adjutant General of South Carolina, giving him the authority to raise the state militia to protect black citizens from the Ku Klux Klan. This officially made him the first African American commanding officer of the South Carolina National Guard. In October 1870, Republicans in a West Central South Carolina congressional district nominated Robert Elliott over the incumbent to run for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Elliott soundly defeated his opponent with 60% of the votes. He was sworn in and took his place in history as he joined the members of the 42nd Congress on March 4th, 1871. His dark skin came as a shock, as his predecessors, or African Americans that were already on the floor, were mixed race. So he became described as the first genuine African in Congress. On his first speech, he remarked, "I shall never forget. I found myself the center of attraction. Everything was still." His politics were considered more radical than his African American colleagues, and his unwavering stance for black civil rights made many representatives of both parties weary of his intentions. Elliott was given a position on the Committee of Education and Labor, where he served during both of his terms. Elliott fought passionately to pass comprehensive civil rights bill in the 2 terms that he served in Congress. Elliott gave his first speech 10 days after he was sworn in challenging the amnesty bill, which reestablished the political rights of nearly all former Confederates, and quickly followed that speech with another supporting the Ku Klux Klan bill, aimed at curbing the terrorist activities of the clandestine organization. April 1st, he read a letter posted by Klansmen of the Union House following it with words about the prejudice against his race, and stated, "It is custom, sir, of Democratic newspapers to stigmatize the Negroes of the South as being a semi-barbarous condition. But pray tell me, who is the barbarian here? The murderer or the victim? I fling back in the teeth of those who make it this most false and foul aspersions upon the Negroes of the South States." With his actions, the third Ku Klux Klan bill, which reinforced the freedmen's voting rights, passed and was signed into law 3 weeks later. The following October, President Ulysses S. Grant used the powers granted him by the bill to suspend habeas corpus in 9 southern states, facilitating the prosecution of Klansmen. In October 1872, Elliott was re-elected practically unopposed. Elliott attempted to become the first African American to win a full term in the U.S. Senate, but that Senate run was dashed when the Assembly voted 73 to 27 to elect his opponent. During his second term, Elliott worked to help pass Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner's Civil Rights Bill to eliminate discrimination from public transportation, public accommodations, and schools. Elliott gained national attention for a speech rebuffing opponents of the bill, who argued that federal enforcement of civil rights was unconstitutional. Before a packed house, Elliott stated his universal support for civil rights in stating, "I regret, sir, that the dark hue of my skin may lend a color to the imputation that I am controlled by motives personal to myself and my advocacy of this great measure of national justice. Sir, the motive that impels me is restricted to no such narrow boundaries, but is as broad as your Constitution. I advocate it, sir, because it is right. Elliott returned to South Carolina on February the 6th, 1874, although Congress was still in session. His well-publicized speeches left him a hero among black constituents, but Elliott realized that the corruption in the state's Republican Party was allowing the Democrats to gain power and endangering the prospect of black politicians. So, in November the 1st, 1874, he resigned and returned to South Carolina, where he served as sheriff and worked to fight political corruption in South Carolina. In 1876, he became South Carolina's Attorney General, but was forced out of that position the following year by white Democrats. Wishing to remain close to the South Carolina government, Elliott subsequently ran for and won a seat in the State General Assembly. While in the State Assembly, Elliott was elected Speaker of the House. He succeeded South Carolina's first black speaker, Samuel Lee. Elliott continued his career in politics with various positions in the government. He was part of a delegate that met with President James Garfield to protest the lack of civil and political rights in the South. In May that year, he was selected by the Treasury Department and transferred to New Orleans. This uprooted him from his home and caused him great personal anguish. Elliott was dismissed as the Treasury Inspector in 1882. Unable to afford to return to South Carolina, he started a law practice in North New Orleans. Robert Elliott lapsed into poverty before his death on August 9th, 1884, 2 days before his 42nd birthday. Elliott was remembered and well known by the contemporaries of the time for his classical education, photographic memory, and obsession with politics. This impressed his contemporary colleagues. Elliott was a formidable politician of his time. He was a major figure in black history, black politics, and the Republican Party. If you would like to have more information just like this, please select the subscribe button. To allow others to find this same information, click the like button. And if you would like to know more about this topic of historical, conservative, Republican, Black characters throughout history, please put your comments in the comment section. Thank you very much for your attention.